I have allergies, never really grew up with them. I always say, like, you don't know what you're thinking. Like, you have, like, the Chandler Bing answer, right, of why he doesn't like dogs. But 3 like, the smell of wet dog does not bother me nearly as much as people who stink.
Hey, and welcome to 5 Random Questions, the show where every question is an adventure. I'm your host, Danny Brown, and each week I'll be asking my guests 5 questions created by a random question generator. The guest has no idea what the questions are, and neither do I, which means this could go either way. So sit back, relax, and let's dive into this week's episode. Today I'm posing the questions to Joe Casabona, who helps busy solopreneurs take back their time. Some even say he perfectly blends content creation and technology, like it's the best cup of coffee you've ever had. Okay, Joe says that. Joe's got a lot of experience over 10 years when it comes to creating podcasts, as well as more than 15 years in teaching and over 20 years as a web developer. So he's probably going to have a few things to say, which is perfect for this show. So Joe, welcome to 5 Random Questions.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
For sure. And you've got, just reading that out there, that's a lot of experience, mate.
Yeah, it's I started when I was 14, like web development. But to put it in context, I was watching a Instagram reel today that personally attacked me by by saying Grand Theft Auto Vice City, right? It came out in 2002. It takes place in 1986. If it came out today, it would take place in 2008. And that is gross to me. Like I was like a full-blown adult, like voting in elections that like at that age. I don't appreciate. So I feel very old today.
Well, and that's what I was going to say when I mentioned that you've got like 20 plus years in the web development. I thought, you don't look old, mate. You know, you got a little bit green in your beard, but you don't look old.
Well, thank you. I have 3 kids, so that's where the gray comes from.
You know what? I hear you. I don't know as many. You've got 2, but I definitely grayed out big time after they were born. I think that's just a thing, right?
Yeah.
It's just like it adds grayness.
Yeah, it like gets you like, there's like like kids do whatever they want and it's frustrating. But then there's also the constant worry you have about them and everything they're doing. It's like, it's wonderful. I love being a dad. But they had like a concert for us this morning and that was like adorable. But you do worry about them. So I'll take the grays though. I'll take the grays for the good experience.
We're looking very dapper with the grays, especially with your yellow hat there. It's countering it really well.
Well, thank you.
So what we're going to do, Joe, as I mentioned, we've got 5 random questions. I have no idea what they are. They're just going to pop up when I open the generator, and we'll just see where it goes. So I'm going to bring the generator up, and let's just get that now. Alrighty, so question 1. Let's spin the generator here.
All right.
Here we go then. Let's get the ball rolling. Who from your past do you really wish you'd stayed in contact with?
Man, this is quite a question.
It's a good opener.
Yeah. Okay, so I mean there's a lot of people, but I think that I have a couple of friends from college who predictably we lost touch with each other after college. So I have like my friend Kat. We would text each other in direct like the amount of time that would go between how often we text each other after graduation was directly related to how much time had gone by. So 6 months after college, we would text each other every couple weeks. 6 years after college, it was the high holidays. And now it's, hey, remember that time in college we did that thing? So I wish I'd stayed in touch with her and that group of people a little bit better.
And what do you find? Is it because you're in different like states or cities, etc., just different paths, or what do you think is the main reason for that?
Yeah, I mean, that particular group of friends and we live all over now. But Kat specifically, she lives probably 5 or so hours away from me. We both have 3 small children, as a matter of fact. And we both have pretty busy careers, and so if we lived closer to each other, we'd probably see each other more often. But with the kids and the jobs and the distance makes it hard.
Did you ever do that thing? I know like you see it on TV shows and movies all the time where you're on Facebook. I'm going to use Facebook because that's a big connector. Obviously, pretty much everybody on the planet's on that. Do you ever see someone from your old school, college, workplace, and they've taken a completely different path in life from what you might have expected that when you knew them? Do you ever see that?
Oh, absolutely. I don't mind. I won't name her specifically, but she'll know who if I'm talking about her. But I had a friend in college she was like a big hippie, like kind of flower child type of person, go with the flow. And at our 5-year college reunion, I we were talking and I'm like, "So what do you do?" She's like, "Oh, I'm a lawyer now." I'm like, "You're a lawyer now?" I'm like, "5 years ago, me wouldn't believe that." She's like, "5 years ago, me wouldn't believe it either."
Well, and that's almost like the complete opposite of what you'd expect, someone that's following the hippie lifestyle to do, especially, I mean, moving to corporate, but I guess moving to being a lawyer. Was she a prosecutor or defender?
At this point, I forget. It felt like I feel like she was in public defense, and so that makes like a little bit more sense. But yeah, it was really shocking. And I mean, like people go through something I have a problem with is the person I knew at that stage of their life is who they are today, and that is almost it should never be the case, and it is almost never the case.
And that's true. Like I mean, they do say you can choose your friends, right? You can't choose family, you choose friends, and then you choose who. I guess. Well, I guess you don't always have the choice as to who stays in your life, but as you mentioned, at least you can still stay connected. I mean, we've got this great thing called internet that allows us,
Mhm.
to keep connected. And who knows? Because obviously you and Kat's got the similar life with the kids, etc. But maybe that's something that's a bucket list. Let's spend a summer just reconnecting with either at yours or theirs or vice versa or in between.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. I love that.
Nice. Okay, so that's question one. That's a nice one to start off with. Let's see what we got for question two. Ooh, okay, interesting. All right, Joe, question two: spontaneity or stability?
The adventurous people pleaser person in me wants to say spontaneity, but the responsible business owning dad in me wants to say stability. So I I'm gonna go with stability at this point in my life. 38, I'll be 39 years old.
You're just a kid, mate.
But got school tuition and house and things like that. Of course, I am a small business owner, right? So how much stability am I really leaning into here? But I like the idea of knowing a little bit, at least a little bit of what I'm going into, and I feel like that's more of the side of stability, right? Spontaneity is like, hey, let's just do this random thing today, and I'm like, can I do this random thing today? I could do that in college. I can't do that today though.
Well, okay, so let's go with a bonus question on top of this. And this isn't question three. This is like
Yeah.
2.A1654, whatever you want to call it. Let's get into the pi equations almost.
Yeah.
Okay, so obviously stability makes complete sense, as you mentioned. You've got the business to run, you've got bills to pay, family to feed, etc. So I completely 100% get that. If you could do one single spontaneous thing, anything at all, and it doesn't impact your job, your life, etc., you just do something really, out of the world that would normally be associated with you, what would it be?
Ooh. Um,
Just to put you on the spot.
Anything in the world I could do that maybe wouldn't. So I love traveling. So I feel like I'm not going to give the coolest answer, but I would take my wife to New Zealand. We've been, we went to Italy for our honeymoon. We've both been to Ireland. I do want to make it to Scotland to have Lagavulin straight from the source.
Oh,
But she's a huge Lord of the Rings fan. And I've always wanted to be on that side of the world. So I think if we could, we would spontaneously take a trip to New Zealand.
I like, and they've got Hobbiton there, right?
Yeah.
They've recreated Hobbiton essentially, and it's actually there.
Yeah. Yeah, it was shot in New Zealand, so they have all sorts of movie era sets and museum-esque stuff over there.
That would be cool. Okay, so there
Yeah.
you go, bucket list.
Yeah.
We're off to New Zealand. All righty, nice one. Moving swiftly along. We're getting there fairly quickly today, but I like it though. I like it. All right then. Okay, I'm looking forward to this for some strange reason. Question number three. Would you rather be trapped in an elevator full of men with BO and body odor, or 3 soaking wet dogs?
I am famously not a dog person. I'm not an animal person at all, actually. I don't like animals, yeah. I have allergies, never really grew up with them. I always say, like, you don't know what you're thinking. Like, you have, like, the Chandler Bing answer, right, of why he doesn't like dogs. But 3, like, the smell of wet dog does not bother me nearly as much as people who stink. Like, I knew somebody in a previous life who was a close talker who also had, like, intense halitosis, and, like, close, like, he would, like, grab my head and, like, say something real close to me, and I'm like, "Bro, you need a mint." Like, so I will, even though I don't like animals, I will pick the 3 soaked dogs because, I would prefer that smell versus men with BO.
And I always feel like, I mean, wet dogs don't really smell that bad. You know, I'm thinking we've got 2 dogs. That being said, our 2 dogs are Chinese crested. So they're pretty much hairless. They've only got hair in their face, their tail, and a little bit in their paws. That's it. The rest of them, they're naked. And we got these because my wife suffers from allergies. So
Mhm.
these dogs are hypoallergenic. So it was perfect. But when we bathe them, that's not a great example because then they smell nice and clean. Before we bathe them, they don't smell bad. And when they're out in the rain or whatever, maybe it's because they don't have hair. But even dogs that, like my wife's mum's got a big dog, and even that doesn't smell bad at least when it's wet. So it's like you say, I can't think of 3 wet dogs being anywhere as bad as, especially men with BO. Women, I feel, don't often have bad BO problems, not as much as men for some reason, whether it's the pheromones or whatever it is it's in us.
Mhm. Yeah. Testosterone's probably very smelly.
Oh yeah, yeah. I know. Like to your example, I worked before I like moved into sort of a different career. I used to work in a knitwear mill back in Scotland. That was my very first job
Mm.
after leaving school, and that's where you make, sweaters and jerseys, etc.
Yeah.
You hand make them. And we used to work in a knitwear mill in the summer. It got really really stinky hot. There was no AC back then, so it was really hot. And we were a couple of guys that had really bad issues, and they tried to hide it. Fair play to them. They tried to hide it with lots of showers, lots of soap, and body spray. But because they were lathering all that stuff on, and then that was on top of the BO that was fighting back through again. That just, I still can vividly remember that smell today.
Yeah, sounds like they needed, like, prescription deodorant, right? So,
Yeah.
I guess the other side of this question is not the smell, but it's like 3 soaked dogs will probably be, like, shaking themselves off, and, like, again, I don't know, like, being wet in dry clothing doesn't really bother me. Also, okay, like, I know I keep bringing up my kids, but, like, when I'm out and about or my youngest still wears diapers, so, like, I get, like, foreign substances on my hands that I kinda have to deal with. So, like, that maybe it's just, like, I'm especially sensitive to smells. Like, I can tell if someone's smoking outside, like, several I was gonna say blocks, outside of eyesight, right? Like, if someone is smoking in the vicinity, even if they're not next to me, like, I'll smell it, and I smoke cigars, so I'm also, like, aware of that hypocrisy. So, like, maybe it's just, like, really smelly people are, like, that is definitely low on my list. I would rather, like, dogs, like, shaking off and getting me all wet and, like, smelling like a wet dog way more than, like, really stinky men, like, really stinky men, right?
And when you said that, I thought you were going to go somewhere else with that. When you said, I'd rather have dogs shit, I thought, oh, where are we going here? Okay, because now that's a different question. That's
That's
a
a
different
different
smell
question.
altogether. So I guess, and so, I completely, I think I 100% agree with you here, mate. I'm curious, if you're with someone, so whether you're in a work situation, etc., and someone's got that bad BO, do you let them know gently? Do you ignore it and let it go? What would be your approach there?
I'd probably let it go, unless it was, like, a friend. Like, if it was, like, a friend and we're, like, getting ready to go out maybe or something, I'd be like, hey, did you, like, poop your pants or something? Like, you smell terrible." Definitely my brothers, but if it was, like, if we're already out, almost definitely no, right? Because at that point, I don't know. My wife and like a lot of her friends like tend to have deodorant on them, but like my wife's also a nurse, so like she's running around.
Mm.
I don't know any guys who carry deodorant on them, and so like certainly if it's a guy friend, like probably not able to do anything about that. So like why make them self conscious?
So what we're saying here is, man, smarten up. You guys
Yeah.
stink. We stink. Let's not say you guys. We stink.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Give yourself a sniff test. Right. If I'm going out on a date, like with my wife, I reapply deodorant. Right. Like even though I do maybe one of the least physically strenuous jobs on the planet, I'm still like, hey, I was just living, so I'm gonna freshen up a little bit before I go out.
Well, and that's the thing. I mean, obviously you're in the creator space, so you've got a lot of lights, etc., that are going on, in your office. So that can get fairly warm anyway. Even though you might not be doing anything strenuous, it can get warm. So yeah, I hear you. Hey there, Danny here. I hope you're enjoying this episode of 5 Random Questions. If you're loving the fun as much as I am, I've got something extra special for you. The Question Master membership. As a premium member, you'll get ad-free early access to every episode. But that's not all. You'll also be able to submit your own random question to be asked in an upcoming episode and spark the next great conversation. Plus, there are even more exclusive perks waiting for you as a question master. So, if you want to take your 5 random questions experience to the next level, head over to 5randomquestions.com/support to sign up and become a question master. Thanks for supporting the show, and now back to the questions. So, like we say, smarten up, not smarten up, freshen up, man. Let's do this.
Freshen up. I love it.
Freshen up. Alrighty, question number 4, moving on. We're approaching 80% through here. All good stuff.
Yeah.
Okay, let's find out what kind of healthy or non-healthy person you are, Joe. What's in your fridge right now?
So this is really good, right? Because the fridge is stuff that I've purchased from the grocery store and then stuff my wife has selected to buy. And I'll just say right now, the healthy stuff is all from my wife and the not healthy stuff is from me. So in our fridge right now, we're in a farm share. Our Chester County, Pennsylvania, famously, I guess, or at least locally famously, lots of farmland. We are the #1 exporter of mushrooms. And so we know a lot of people with farms. We're part of a farm share. So we've got like some onions, some lettuce, carrots. We have eggs, fresh eggs right from the chicken. And that's all part of the farm share that my wife signed us up for. In the other part of the fridge, we have an assortment of frozen food that could easily be thrown in the oven to eat. So tortellini, pizza bagels, pierogies, and then this Rebel ice cream that is very low carb, because even though I just rattled off a bunch of things, I have type 2 diabetes. And so I try to draw the line at sweets, right? I'm Italian, so I have a hard time completely cutting out pasta, but I will draw the line at sweets. And so Rebel ice cream, great alternative, like keto friendly, low carb ice cream.
And so have you always been type 2 diabetes, or did that come in later in life?
I was diagnosed about 3 years ago. But we've like I was a lock for this. Both of my parents have type 2. My maternal grandmother had type 2. Our family dog had type 2 diabetes.
Oh, wow.
So like I was, not that that's genetically related, but it's definitely like lifestyle related, I'm sure. So I was like pretty much a lock. It's under good control. And so but yeah, I found out a few years ago, but I've known for a while this is probably in my future.
And I'm guessing because it's such a new, diagnosis, is there anything you'd mentioned, what you have in your fridge, what your wife gets, what you get, and that you do have that special ice cream? Because obviously ice cream, everybody wants ice cream, But is there something that you can't have anymore that you did have prior to 3 years ago that you really, really miss?
Regular soda, which is probably what got me into the situation in the first place, right? So I've loosened up since the diagnosis, but like when I was first diagnosed, I spoke to a nutritionist who was like, all right, because of your situation, you should have like 40 to 50 carbs per meal and then 15 to 20 carbs per snack. And so I was like, all right, well, if I'm eating like salmon, right, for dinner, and I'm only eating like salmon and asparagus or something, there's no carbs in that. I could probably have a can of regular Coke, right? Nope, 42 carbs in a can, 12 ounces of regular Coke. So once I figured that out, I was like, all right, like I live in a world where not only can I easily get my blood sugar at any point during the day, but there's also lots of alternatives. So like Coke Zero, pretty close. Diet Dr. Pepper, pretty close. And so I do miss the taste of especially cherry Coke, but there are enough close enough alternatives that I'm not down in the dumps about it. You know, I guess if you really love food, you'll get that statement. If you don't care about food, you'll be like, why would you ever be down in the dumps about food?
Oh no, I hear you. I'm a huge foodie. I mean, I love cooking. I find it really therapeutic.
Yeah.
And just messing about with flavors. Oh, is this going to work? Let's try it. If it doesn't, okay, I'm not doing that again. But at least you tried it, right? It's just that experimentation.
Yeah. I do that with cocktails. I love making cocktails.
Oh, well, I'll have to maneuver my way out that way sometime at a podcast conference or something. And
Absolutely.
sounds like a plan. So, and obviously because it is a new, I'm guessing, how old are your kids again, Joe? You mentioned you got a little one.
Yeah. 7, 4, and 2.5.
And do they work around your diabetes? Do they still have what they want? What's
Yeah. Yeah. I was, I'm very much a, you know, I did this to myself. It's my personal responsibility. You know, it's like there are some people who are like, oh, I know you're not drinking, so I'm not going to get a drink. I would never impose that on other people, right? Like, oh, sorry, I'm getting dessert. No, 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 no. You live a largely healthy life and you got a salad for dinner and I got like a hamburger for dinner. So like don't be sad for me, right? So no, I we they get their treats after dinner. I want to rein that in a little bit. And like I get like they're still young and their metabolism is different and they're still growing, but I definitely don't want them to have the bad habits that I had. So like even my oldest like hasn't had regular soda yet
mm,
because when I had it too early and like that's all my dad doesn't drink water. Like that's not an exaggeration. Like, and so thankfully after I started dating Erin, my now wife, I started drinking more water. I'd tell people I'd be dead without her. But so like we grew up in a household. We didn't grow up in a healthy habits household, and I want to change that for my kids.
and that's the thing, right? You always want to do differently from what your parents did with you. Not that your parents ever did a bad thing or anything, but you always, I feel as a child, you always want to do things differently from how you perceive maybe your parents raised you. And I tend to find you still do stuff that your parents did anyway.
Oh my gosh, I'm like a carbon. I mean, like I'm not kidding anybody. I'm a carbon copy of my old man. Like the only difference between my dad and me is I read more books than he does, which is like that's a purely academic thing, and I probably got that from my mom, right? Because my mom loves reading. But other than that, like we have the same mannerisms. We're short with our temper in the same sort of way, and the same sort of things bother us. But yeah, my parents did a good job. But you know, it was the 80s, 90s. Things were different, right? Like way more processed food was coming out. My mom was working, right? Because she had my parents had 4 boys that they had to feed, which is an impossible task when they're all teenagers. And so, you know, we would go for the easy and the fun thing. And we do the same thing. It's just we live 20 or 30 years on. There's a lot more healthy, easy food out there.
Exactly. And I'm curious what our kids will have in 30 years' time. Will they still have nice food to have? Or will it be just these little cubes?
Yeah, right. Yeah. Little bouillon, like the impossible bouillon cube, right? Where it's like, it tastes like a steak dinner, but it's made from water or something.
Exactly. Good luck to them. I'm not,
Yeah.
I hoping, well, you know what, 30 years' time, maybe I'll still be alive, maybe not, but I'm not worried if I'm dead because I'm missing that food. I will take that as a trade.
Yeah,
No
absolutely.
way. Alrighty, Joe. We're almost at the end here. I feel like Sean Evans on Now We Feast. You know, he's like,
Oh,
we're
yeah.
on to the last dab here.
Yeah.
got the same kind of hair as Sean Evans. I think he's a little bit bolder than me, but we'll see. Anyway, so yeah, we're on to question 5. So let's have a look at this and let's reel this one in. Okay, then. Now, this will tie back a little bit to your spontaneity or, whatever that question was, spontaneity or stability. That was it. Yeah. So question 5, here we go. What's the craziest or most out of character thing you've ever done?
Oh man. Okay. People who have heard all of no, that's probably not the most. I was like protecting a friend. Okay, the most out of character thing for me probably in my early 20s and stupid mostly. But I try not to be outwardly mean to people who don't deserve it. And I wrote a very mean blog post about somebody. It was I like cringe just thinking about it. And then they read it and confronted me twice about it. And I doubled down both times. Like I never apologized. And I think about it now and it's just like I hate that like I don't have a lot of regrets. I regret writing it and I regret the way I handled it. And like sure, stupid 18 to 20-year-old guy who's like not thinking about long-term ramifications. But in other situations, I'm direct and I'm willing to admit when I'm wrong. And I just was neither of those things in that situation. So something I think about every few months, and I'm not like haunted by it, but I do think about it sometimes. And I'm just like, man, I was an idiot. Like every time I think about it.
And like I say, I mean, you were young and we've all done silly things. And I'm curious, A, did you ever clear the air after these 2 times? And then I guess B, maybe, is there anything that you find specific that makes you think of that times that just pop into your head from nowhere?
Yeah, that's like the horrible thing about just random thoughts, right? Is it'll just like pop in from time to time. Or like, and when I'm even prompted like this and I thought about it, it like doesn't it's when it just like creeps in and I'm like, ugh. We never cleared the air. And it's part of me is because so like it upset this person so much. And they've more or less like disavowed themselves of me that I worry that just like sliding in and like my very like existence will upset this person, and so I feel like it's a very let sleeping dogs lie thing now. If they're listening, they know. I don't know, but if they are, they know exactly who they are, and I do regret the way I acted because it's not me. It wasn't me then. It's definitely not me now.
Well, I think that's part of human growth, though, right? We do things, and it's as we get older and we see, why it wasn't the right thing to do, and then we try, espouse that to our kids and explain, okay, don't ever do anything like this because it's wrong, and explain why, right? So it's not nice because obviously, as you mentioned, it ruined a friendship and it's hurt someone. But if it's a learning thing, I feel it's not good because that's the wrong word, but it's good for our personal growth and if we can try our best to make it right. But as you mentioned, at some stage, we just have to step back and say, okay, I hurt that person and, I'll let them be now.
Yeah, right. And if I ever run into this person in the street, it'll be the first thing I say. But until then, if they have not thought about me and never think about me again, then that's perfectly fine as well.
That's a good way. That's a good way to think about it, I think.
Yeah.
Alrighty, so we made it. We got it through the 5 questions.
We got real deep there. I don't usually get this deep. I don't usually get that deep.
Well, this is what I like about this format. I mean, as I mentioned, we don't know what the questions are. And it doesn't force you, but I think it encourages you to maybe answer, something that you hadn't thought of for a while. So and I like the fact that it can be 1 minute can be something silly, about BO and dogs in an elevator. And then the next day be something like that. So I appreciate you sharing with that.
Yeah. Of course. Of course.
And I think, in fairness, this is the part of the show that it's fair to the guests who've put themselves out there and open up honestly to myself and you, the listener. I think it's only fair to allow Joe the random question he can throw my way.
Well, it's not going to be as deep as that. I was thinking about this. It's also, I guess it's not really random either. For those who don't have access to the video, I'm currently wearing an Obi-Wan Kenobi shirt. I see Boba Fett in the background. And I know, Danny, that you're a Star Wars fan, right? And so my question is, who would you want to be your master in all of Star Wars and the extended universe? So I was going to say Jedi Master, but I don't want to assume you're picking the light side, right? So like whose apprentice do you most want to be in all of Star Wars and the extended universe?
Oh, that's a really good one. There's so many as well. I mean, I'm a huge Star Wars fan, but I'm not like one of the ones that are super into every aspect and facet of the lore behind it and everything.
Mm-hmm.
I know Mark, my colleague, Mark Asquith,
Yeah.
and Gary a lot. They would know so much more than me, because that's their thing, right? That they have their own podcast about Star Wars.
Yeah.
So I think of the books that I've read and of the shows and the movies, etc., I'd probably go with Kanan Jarrus. Kanan Jarrus?
Ooh,
From
yeah.
Rebels. If you watch the Rebels TV show, you'll know who he is. He may have appeared in comics beforehand, I'm not sure, but obviously that's where Rebels is where I got to know him. And he's been name dropped in the Ahsoka show, which I thought was awesome because that tied these two universes together.
He also makes a little cameo in Bad Batch.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
Yes, right at the start, I believe, right? Isn't
Yeah.
he the kid that runs off or something?
He's the kid. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
Yeah.
Good one. I forgot.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I feel he's the most pure, like how he taught Ezra. He took Ezra on board and taught Ezra. And how he, and I don't want to give any spoilers away for anyone that's not watched Rebels, but might want to watch it to catch up on, the backstory to Ahsoka and, all that stuff. But how he did what he did at an important time that completely changed the direction of the show.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I would say Kanan, and I'm going to get his name wrong. So I know what the Star Wars fans can be like. I'm seeing it online at the minute. It's a Wild West showdown out there at the minute. But yeah, Kanan Jarrus, that would be my master, I feel. What about you? I'm going to ping it back to you, I think.
Ooh, so I love that answer because I don't think you would hear it a lot. But yeah, Kanan's great. I mean, I love Obi-Wan, but I feel like that's such a boring answer. But I think now that the show is out, this answer is also going to be boring. But I love Ahsoka Tano. I think she's great. I think she has like the spontaneity of Anakin, right? With a little bit of like the wisdom and stability of Obi-Wan. And so she's not afraid to do the right thing, but she acts prudent. And much like a self-employed person, she realized that she wanted to continue her practice but could not live within the well, I guess I'm like really spoiling Clone Wars here. But of the Jedi Order. So really I really like that about her, and like I read her the book about her, and it was just really, really great character. So that's who I'd pick.
I like it. That's a good one. And the show, I thought Rosario Dawson nailed that.
Yeah.
And even when she appeared in The Mandalorian, I thought she nailed that character introduction. So it'll be interesting to see where season 2, hopefully they're going to have it, where that goes.
This is the thing I like about Ahsoka, right? Because like when we're introduced to Ahsoka in the first episode of Clone Wars, which was like a Clone Wars movie, she was like 14 and very immature. And then like we see her fast forward 50 or so years later, and she is, there's a lot of character development for us to witness, which is great.
Yeah, 100%. And I know they're on about doing like Dave Filoni's on about bringing all these disparate universes together, like all the shows together. So the Rebels era, Ahsoka, Thrawn, Bad Batch, everything's leading up to this big Mandalorian, this big movie event, in a couple of years' time. So I'll be curious to see what that is.
Yeah, super exciting. I love that we got to see on-screen Thrawn.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or like a real-life Thrawn, I guess.
Yeah, real life on screen. We'll go with both. Live action.
Live action, that's the word.
Live action. And we're not cutting that out. We're going to let Joe sound really, off the chart when he's trying to describe what an animation to live action is called.
That's good. People should see that. It's I know it's hard to believe, but I'm not brilliant all the time.
So, Joe, I really appreciate you coming on today's episode and opening up and talking to me about the 5 questions that you were asked. For people that want to find out what you do from a work point of view, podcast point of view, or just in life in general, where's the best place to connect and find you?
I think Casabona.org is the place. Usually I come on these shows, I have like a landing page set up, but this was a really good, casual, kind of open conversation. Casabona.org has been my blog since 2002. And so you can go there and it's been cleaned up, obviously. But there's a lot of stuff about me there. And then I'm on almost every social network as J Casabona, which is also linked over at Casabona.org.
That makes it nice and easy. And speaking of links, I'll be sure to leave the link to that in the old show notes. So whatever app you're listening on, make sure to check that out. And I'll link that right over to Joe's site. So Joe, again, thanks for appearing today.
Thanks for having me. This was so much fun.
Thanks for listening to 5 Random Questions. If you enjoyed this week's episode, be sure to follow for free on the app you're currently listening on, or online at 5randomquestions.com. And if you feel like leaving a review, well, that'd make me happier than that time I met Darth Vader at my local supermarket. Because yes, that's what Darth Vader does. Signs autographs for 13-year-old boys at local supermarkets. So it's obviously the real Darth Vader, and I'm not taking any other answer. But seriously, if you want to leave a review for the show, it'd make my day. Until the next time, keep asking those questions.